2022 has been the first year that I have done TBR videos on my channel here, and I thought it would be fun if we take a look back at all of the TBRs that I've made over the course of this year and see how many books I actually read off of them, what books I didn't read, if I want to still read them, if they're books that I'm no longer interested in, if I did read the books real quickly, like did I like it or not. But I'm gonna keep this kind of short because obviously we have 12 months of TBRs. Well, December I can't really like go through because it's literally like the second day of December that I'm filming this, but we'll go through all the rest of the months of the year. And then also I made a 22 books to read in 2022 video at the beginning of last year. I'll be doing a 23 books to read in 2023 video, and I'm also going to go over that list as well. Spoiler alert, I didn't do well with that one. So anyways, without further ado, let's jump in. So if you've watched any of my TBRs before, these are just like my priority reads. A lot of the times I don't stick with them. I like to be a mood reader, and I more put books on here that I either knew I would be reading for like book clubs or read-alongs or things, but then also books that are like high priority for me that I want to like have at the forefront of my mind, because things get buried in Goodreads, screenshots get buried in my camera roll, and there's so many books that I like forget that I want to read. So I started tracking just like what are my high priority reads of that month. So back in January, you'll definitely see these TBRs get longer. January I only had like 7 books on my TBR. So I had Ecstasy by KV Rose. I did in fact read this. I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. Too Late by Colleen Hoover. Again, I really enjoyed this one. Dark romance from her, very dark. And I gave this one, I think, 4 stars as well. Carnage by Sarah Bailey. This book is so frustrating, but so hot. And I think I gave this one 3.5, rounded down to 3 stars. Forget Me Not by QB Tyler. 5 stars. One of my favorites I read all year. Oh, beautiful. Bittersweet Surrender by QB Tyler, also 5 stars, also loved, one of my faves from her. Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. I was doing a Throne of Glass reread, and I have, once again, I gave this book 5 stars. I love this book, one of my favorites in the Throne of Glass series forever. And lastly, on that month was Enamored by Gianna Darling. I did not read this book yet. It's still one that I really, really want to get around to. It's the second book in the Enslaved duet. I was originally hoping that I would finish it by the end of this year. That's not going to happen, but definitely still want to read this one. Okay, so then in February, Crescent City, House of Sky and Breath came out. I did in fact read this. I did really enjoy it. I gave it 5 stars. Honestly, this one was a little slow for me, and I still think I actually liked the first book better, but the ending of this one had me so shook I had to take a walk afterwards because I didn't know how to sit with myself after finishing it. All People by Sally Rooney. I read this one for a book club with some of my friends. Otherwise, I would have never read this book, and I did not enjoy it whatsoever. I gave it 2 stars. Hunting Adeline by H.G. Carlton. Loved. 5 stars. One of my favorite books of this year, and so incredibly dark, but so freaking good. So good. Darling Venom by Parker S. Huntington. I have read this. I think I gave this one 4 stars. Yeah, definitely longer than it needs to be, but I did really enjoy it. The Devil by Ashley Jade. I've also read this, and I have read book 2. I finished the duet, and I enjoyed this. I think, again, I gave this one 4 stars. Very dark and messed up, but a fun time. From Luke Off with Love by Mariana Zapata. Still have not read. I still haven't read this freaking book, and I've literally started it multiple times and I don't get past like the 3rd chapter. I will read it eventually. Next year's gonna be my year for Mariana Zapata, but yeah, didn't read it. And then I was going to read in February, I was going to read the 50 Shades of Grey series and vlog it, and I DNF'd 50 Shades of Grey, and I don't think I will ever read them. Hear me out. I love the movies. The movies are phenomenal. They're so fun. Okay. Like, are they great? Like, are they good? Not necessarily, but they're like amazing. So yeah, that's how I'm going to consume this story forever. I will not ever probably be trying to read these ever again. Okay. Heading into March, okay, here's the thing, guys, looking back on these, you might think like, McKay, you're killing it. Just wait for the later months of the year. At the beginning, I was real good about completing them. Not so much as we move farther into the year. So first up in March, Sea of Ruin. I did read this. Originally when I read this, I think I gave this 4.5 rounded up to 5. That's wrong. It's like a full 5 stars from me. The longer I sit on it, the more that like this book hasn't left my brain. And I'm like, you know what that is? Full 5 stars. I loved it. It was my first historical romance that I ever read. Loved it. Sorry, I'm gonna get more comfortable. I feel like this is a very casual video, so I can be a little more casual. So I'm gonna like lean back a little bit because my back hurts. Okay, oh, so Devil's Advocate by Ashley Jade. This is the second book in the duet with The Devil that I read the previous month. So I did read this one as well. And I gave this one 4 stars as well. I definitely preferred the second book over the first book in this duet, but still both were solid. Bought by Lauren Landish and Willow Winters. I have not read, will never be reading. It's a no from me. Truly by Carmel Rhodes. I did read this one. I gave it 3 stars, 3.5 stars, because I really enjoyed the story and the heroine, but I absolutely hated the hero. And he really like tanked it for me. The Dancer in the Masks by B. Page, a dark paranormal-ish why choose captor captive romance. Read it, loved it, gave it 4 stars, really enjoyed. Bargainer by Laura Thalassa, still have not read, still want to read. It's a fantasy romance. It was making the rounds a couple of years ago because it was like being compared to ACOTAR, and obviously I love ACOTAR. But yeah, I do own it. I will read it eventually, just haven't gotten around to it. Nikki, if you're watching this, Music, Lights, and Never After by C.L. Matthews. Again, I do really want to read this book and I will read it eventually. But yeah, didn't get to that one. Crow by A. Zavarelli, the first book in the Boston Underworld series. Again, I own it, have not read it, but do still want to read it at some point. And lastly for March, You're Mine Tonight by Lucia Franco. I read it, loved it, 4 stars. Would love to see her give us a follow-up book for it. Okay, in April, I had a new release, Blame It on the Vodka by Fiona Cole. I have loved the first 2 books, gave them both 5 stars, I think, on both of them. And I haven't read this one yet. Do still really want to read it. Love Fiona Cole, one of my favorites. Just have not had the time to get around to it. Cherry Bomb by Carmel Rhodes. Read it, loved it. It's best friend's dad, age gap romance. So fun. I gave this one 4 stars as well. Ricochet by Krista and Becca Ritchie. I did a reading vlog reading the entire Addicted / Calloway Sisters series, and this one is definitely my least favorite out of the series. It felt like a filler book. I gave this one 3.5 out of 5 stars. Real Players Never Lose by Macaulay Smeltzer, the 3rd book in the Boys series. Loved this one, loved Teddy and Vanessa, but they still didn't top the 2nd book for me. I think I gave this one 4 stars. Sin and Discipline by Lily White. Loved. 5 stars. Student teacher romance. Gave me very similar vibes to Dark Notes by Pam Godwin. Loved it. Absinthe by Winter Renshaw. I haven't read this one, and honestly, I genuinely can't even remember what this one is. I think maybe, is it another student teacher one? I remember this was like this TBR I think I had made shortly after I had done my Goodreads clean out. So I found a bunch of old books on there and I was trying to like bring some of those back up into the forefront. So I'll have to look into Absinthe. I don't really remember this one, but if it is a student teacher, I'm obviously going to keep it on here. Otherwise, I don't really remember what it's about. With Visions of Red by Trisha Wolfe. I do still want to read this one. I think this is a serial killer romance. And again, there are just a couple by Trisha Wolfe that I have on my TBR and have wanted to read, but I haven't read anything by her yet. So definitely keeping that one around. Model Behavior by Kelsey Ray. So I actually DNF'd this book, and guys, you know, I literally never DNF books, but I read this one. I even downloaded on my Kindle when I went on vacation this month because I was like, it'll be perfect. I'll be in like a warm climate by the pool, gonna want a little more rom-com vibes, and I quite literally hated it. I don't think I even got past the first like 10% of it, and I was like, this is not working. I don't want to stick it out through this, and I DNF'd it and will never obviously go back and read it. Hollywood Roommates by Elizabeth Briggs. I did read this one and I gave it 2 stars. I really didn't like it. Vibe by Liza James. I'm currently reading this one, so I am still working on my Banned Forbidden Taboo reading vlog that I, as you can tell, have quite literally been working on since April. So I'm currently reading Vibe by Liza James, and I will have that done by the end of the year. And the other one that I was going to read in this vlog is Double Edged by Nyla Kay. I don't want to read this book anymore. I won't read this book, and I've instead subbed it out for a different Banned Forbidden Taboo book for that reading vlog, and yeah, will not be reading. Built to Fall by Julia Wolf. I liked this one. I gave this one 3.5 stars out of 5. I can't remember if I rounded it up or down or not. It was good. It was solid, just like kind of kind of like boring for me. And then Praise by Sarah Kate. Loved it. Gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Loved the Salacious Players Club. And yeah, that was April. I did really good in the month of April, but I was also on vacation that month, so I read like 20 books. So that was like a solid reading month. Okay, next up in May, Eyes on Me by Sarah Kate, the second book in the Salacious Players Club series. I gave this one 4.5 stars, rounded down to 4. But the longer I've sat on it, again, the more I'm like, I think this is actually my second favorite book in the Salacious Players Club series. Loved it. The Dark One by Nikki St. Crow, the second book in the, I think it's like Vicious Darlings series. Did really enjoy it. I think I gave this one 4 stars. Still need to finish the series. Breaking Mr. Kane by Shanora Williams, the second book in the Wanting Mr. Kane series. Loved it. 4 stars. Not as much though as the first book. The first book is sheer perfection. Then I had Thrive by Krista and Becca Ritchie. Read it, 5 stars. Addicted After All. Loved it, 5 stars. Fuel the Fire. Loved it, 5 stars. Long Way Down. Loved it. Not one of my least favorite in the series though. I still gave it 5 stars, but it's definitely on the lower end of the series for me. And then Some Kind of Perfect, the epilogue novel. In retrospect, this book, I gave it 5 stars. It's insane. It's like a 700-page epilogue book. The only thing is I was so deeply entrenched in this world and with these characters that I like ate it up. So I gave it 5 stars, but like literally insane that it's so long for an epilogue novel. Midnight Kiss by Carmel Rhodes. I haven't read this one yet. I do still want to read it though. Sick Fucks by Tilly Cole. This is the other book for the Banned Forbidden Taboo video that I subbed out for the Nyla K one. So I will be reading this month, and I'll finish it this month because that video is going to go up at the end of this month. The Road by Sarah Bailey. This is the 3rd book, I think, in the 4 Horsemen series. So I still haven't read it yet. I will read it at some point. This series frustrates the hell out of me with the plot, but the spice pulls it through for me. So I will read it at some point. Caution to the Wind by Gianna Darling. This was supposed to come out in May and then it never did. Some of her social medias got hacked, so she delayed the release because she wanted to, obviously being an indie author, be on her social media accounts when it released, and it still is not released. So whenever it does release though, I will read it. And then The Masks and the Dancers by The Masks and the Dancer by B. Page, the second book in that duet. And I read it. Gave it 3.5 stars. I rounded up to 4 and I still stick by that. But this second book just kind of got like a little like, what is fully going on here? But overall, I still really enjoy the duet as a whole. That was May. On to June. So June is when I started 2 of my book clubs. So Out of Bounds that I co-host with Nikki, our pick was Beautiful Sinner by Sarah Kate this month. I think I gave this book 3.5, rounded up to 4 stars. I would change that now if I don't go back and change my ratings on Goodreads, but if I were to rate it now, I would definitely give it 3.5, rounded down to 3 stars. It's not really my favorite. It was fine. It was good, but just nothing like super memorable or special to me. Give Me More by Sarah Kate. Loved this one. The 3rd book in the Salacious Players Club series. Gave this one 4 stars. Gravity by Sarah Kate. I did not end up reading this. I do have the ebook. I will read it eventually, but hasn't fit into my schedule to read it yet. Allison's Adventures in Underland by C.M. Stunich. So this is like a dark Why Choose Alice in Wonderland retelling or like reimagining, and definitely still want to read this. I've loved the other books that I've read by C.M. Stunich and definitely want to read more from her, so I will read this eventually. Camp by A. Anders. This was Cheyenne and I's Smut Club pick for this month. Obviously I read it. I didn't like it. I think I gave it 2.5 stars, rounded up to 3, which is fine because I like to give books the benefit of the doubt on Goodreads. But yeah, normally I typically round up, but this one was just not the vibe. Then I read the entire Ravenhood trilogy. I had Flock, Exodus, and The Finish Line, and I read all 3 of those. I did a reading vlog for those. Gave Flock 4 stars and Exodus and The Finish Line 5 stars. You can see me cry in that video. Twisted Lies by Anna Huang released. I gave this one 5 stars. It is my least favorite in the Twisted series, but obviously still 5 stars. Still loved it. I loved Christian so good. I also have a reading vlog, reading that. American Prince by Sarah Simone, the second book in the, I don't know what this series is called. The first one is American Queen. I still haven't read this. I would like to read it. I don't know. I don't know why I keep putting this series off. I will read it eventually. Collided by Lauren Asher. So this is the second book in the Dirty Air series. I'm actually not planning on reading this one anymore. I really don't want to read it. I was not interested by the couple at all. The only reason why I put it on here is because I want to get to the next two books, or like the last two books in the series, but I hate reading things out of order. But here's the thing, like this book is genuinely keeping me from reading those other two books. So I'm just saying, screw it. I'm not going to read Collided, and I'm just going to jump. I think the third one is Wrecked, and that's the one that I really want to get to. So I won't be reading this one anymore because I just don't care about this couple. Coach Me by Shanora Williams. I did read, really enjoyed it. Not my favorite from her. I gave it 3.5, rounded up to 4 stars. Good Boy by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy, the spin-off series from the Him and Us Duet. It's like the WAG series. Haven't read this still, but would like to at some point. The Golden Boys by Rachel Jonas and Nikki Thorne. So I think this was one of my coworkers, actually. I think this was one that she had recommended, that she had read and loved. I literally can't remember anything about it, but I think I would still like to get around to it. And lastly, Untouchable by Sam Mariano. Again, Cheyenne and Nikki, if you're watching this, so sorry. I'll get to it soon. Okay, July. Again, the 2 book club picks. In Flight by R.K. Lilly for Smut Club. I gave this one 3.5, rounded up to 4. Now, I would probably, maybe I'd keep that. Probably like, it's a solid 3.5. Cruel Black Hearts by Candace Wondrak. Again, this was 3.5 stars and I rounded up to 4. Definitely my favorite out of the series. I've read the next 2 after it, and like they have not lived up to the hype of the first one, I felt. And then the Crossfire series, Reflected in You, Entwined with You, Captivated by You, One with You. Oh, where's the first one? Oh, I think I had already read the first one in June. We did a reread, a bunch of booktubers did a reread of this series, and this was my second time reading it. And I don't think I ever need to read it again, but I did enjoy rereading them for like the nostalgia of it. The Company of Fiends by Catherine Moon. I did read this one, definitely not in July. I think I read this one, in like October or something. I did like it. Definitely not as much as Lady of Rooksgrave Manor. I think I gave this one 3.5 stars, rounded down to 3. It was just so excessively long and I didn't really care about the plot. The Lady Gets Lucky by Joanna Shoup. I read this one for my vlog where Rachel from Rachel Reads and Sings picked my books to read. Loved it. 5 stars. One of my favorite books. I'm so glad that I did that vlog with her, because otherwise, if she wouldn't have given me that book to read, I would have never picked it up, and it was incredible. The Duchess Deal by Tessa Dare was another one for that vlog. Gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed this one. And The Devil's Submission by Nicola Davis. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I did enjoy it. It's a novella, which y'all know I don't typically love as much, but I did enjoy it. Handsome Devil by Sarah Kate. Really liked this. I think I gave this 4 stars. It's a novella, but on the longer end. I want to say it's like closer to 200 pages, and it's like Forced Proximity and Best Friend's Dad, and it was fun and really good. Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. I have not read yet, but I will be reading this month because I'm doing a Sophie Lark reading vlog, so we'll do that this month. Faking with Benefits by Lily Gold. I gave this one 3.5, rounded up to 4 stars. I wanted a lighter reverse harem to talk about in a recommendation video that I did for you guys. So I read this one and it was good. Didn't need to be that long, but I enjoyed it. Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reed. I have read this one. It's an hockey romance. I didn't read this though back in July. I just read this last month, but I did really like it. Okay, that was July. On to August. Home Game by Odette Stone. Read it. Loved it. 5 stars. Cold Dark Souls by Candace Wondrak, the second book, following up Cruel Black Hearts. This one I gave 3 stars. Tide by Carrie and Cole. I still want to read this. See, I didn't like love Torn, so I put this one off for a while. But then when I was in Atlanta with some other booktubers, some people were talking about it and talking about how much they loved Tide. I think Sam was the one who was talking about it a lot and how much she loved Tide. And I was like, I need to read this book. So I still want to. I just didn't get around to it this year. Distorted by Nyla Kay. Read it. Hated it. Least favorite book I read this year, 1 star. Lotus by Jennifer Hartman. I loved Still Beating and I want to read more of her backlist. I still want to read this. I haven't gotten around to it, but I will read it eventually and still have plans to explore more of Jennifer Hartman's backlist. Thrive by Kate Stewart. I didn't read and don't plan on reading anymore. Fair Catch by Candy Steiner. I did read this. I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. I mostly read it because I wanted to get to Blindside because that one came out and everyone was loving that one. And I do still want to read it. Haven't gotten around to that one yet, but Fair Catch, loved. 4 stars. Ivy by Willa Nash. I remember this was one of Tori's favorites a while ago, and I still want to read it. It's like, I think Gossip Girl meets like Pretty Little Liars kind of vibes. Still want to read it. Haven't though. Then Does It Hurt by H.D. Carlton. We read this one for Out of Bounds. Read it, 3.5 stars, rounded up to 4. I did like it, but something about it and me just like didn't fully click and vibe, but I couldn't really explain what that was. Pageant by Lilith Vincent. This was Smut Club's pick for this month. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I can't remember if I rounded it up or down. I did like it, but didn't like love it. Wasn't obsessed. Bitter Betrayal by Megan Pierce. This is a mafia romance, and I do still want to read this one, so I will hopefully get around to it eventually. And Something in the Way by Jessica Hawkins. I will get to this book eventually. I have had it on my TBR for literally like 2 years at this point. And I just haven't read it yet, and I will get around to it eventually. Okay, September, I did really good this month. Pen Pal by JT Geisinger. This was our Out of Bounds book club pick, and I gave this one 3 stars. I liked how the book ended, but I absolutely hated like first 75% of this book. I was really bored. Lola and the Millionaires was our Smut Club pick. I really enjoyed this one. It's an Omegaverse, and I gave this one 4 stars. Forbidden Obsession by Regina Wade. This was the month that we did our Twisted and Taboo readathon. This was our group pick. Yikes, 2.5 stars. I don't know if I rounded up or down on Goodreads, but if I rounded up, I should have rounded down because this was not the vibe. Hush Hush by Lucia Franco. Finally read this. I bought it back in like, what, 2020? And I finally read it, loved it, 5 stars. The Brit by Jodi Ellen Malpas. This was my pick for like the Mafia and Captive category, and I never read this. I do still really want to read it, and I'm pretty sure she's going to be at Book Bonanza next year, so I definitely want to read it by then. Sick Twisted Minds by Candace Wodrak, the 3rd book in that series. 3 stars. Didn't really like it. The Touch of a Villain by Holly Renee. I didn't read this. This was my bully pick, and I still want to read this. I still have it downloaded on my Kindle. I do genuinely really want to get around to this one soon. So hopefully soon. Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I read this for a reading vlog. Loved it. 5 stars. Incredible. Dirty Empire and Fallen Empire by K.A. Tucker. I finished both these. Cheyenne interviewed K.A. Tucker on her channel and invited me to co-host on there. So I got to interview K.A. Tucker with her, and that was really fun. And I had wanted to finish the Empire Nightclub series before we did that interview, and I did. Read them both and gave them both 4 stars. Mercy by Sarah Kate. Last book in the Salacious, or not last book, 4th book in the Salacious Players Club series. My favorite. 5 stars. Incredible. Out of Bounds by Lucia Franco. Loved it. 5 stars. Nostalgic. I cried. I miss Rhea and Kova so much, and I will love them forever and always. And First Comes Blood by Lilith Vincent. Tamika invited me to co-host the Taboo Book Club for this month, and that was our pick, and I read it. I liked it. I think I gave it 4 stars, and it ended on a cliffhanger, and do want to keep going sometime. October, Losers by Harley LaRue was our Out of Bounds book club pick. Read it. Really enjoyed it. 4 stars. It didn't need to be that long. And Peace Lies Havoc by Emma Jones. This was our Smut Club pick for that month. Just so confusing. I gave it 3 stars. And then Broken Bonds by Jay Bree. We were doing a Bonds That Tie series read along. This one I gave 3 stars. I was still giving it the benefit of the doubt. Savage Bonds is the 2nd book. What did I give this one? Did I give this one 2 stars? Or 3 stars? I don't know. I was like, this is not working for me. And I was really feeling not optimistic by the end of the 2nd book. And then Blood Bonds is the 3rd one. I did read this one as well. And by the end, I was like skimming this one. I was like, this is just not the series for me. And I think I gave this one 2 stars. And then I also had Forced Bonds, Unbroken Bonds, Tragic Bonds by Jay Bree, the last 3. And we quit the readathon because none of us were liking the series, and I won't ever finish it. I just didn't like that series. So those are a no from me. A Place Without You by Julianne. Cheyenne, once again, I will get to this eventually. She compared it to like Sweet Dandelion by Macaulay Smelter, like similar vibes, because I think it's guidance counselor and student. So definitely still want to read. I've never read anything by Julianne, and I do really want to. Falter by Fiona Cole. This was a novella that she came out with that was in the same series as in the Voyeur series, and I read it. I enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 stars. Gothic Hannah by Runix. I still haven't read this freaking book. This has been like a priority fall read of mine for like the past 2 years, and I haven't read it. I will read it eventually. Her Soul for Revenge by Harley LaRue, the 2nd book in the Souls trilogy. Again, I didn't get to it, but I do really want to read it still. A Love Letter to Whiskey by Candy Steiner. I did read this one for a reading vlog. Read it, loved it, 5 stars, incredible. And Hollow Heathens by Nicole Fiorina. Again, I didn't get to this one, and I will read it eventually. I own it, but I didn't finish it. And then in November, Promises and Pomegranates was our Smut Club pick. Read it, 3 stars. Just kind of like neutral on it. Serpent in White by Nyla K. Again, 3 stars. I was left with so many questions, but like it was like an enjoyable experience, I guess, but I don't know. I'm frustrated by it. What Was Meant to Be by QB Tyler. 5 stars, bitch. 5 stars. This was amazing. One of my favorites from her. Loved it. The Beautiful and the Damned by Lucia Franco. This release got pushed back, so whenever it does release, I will read it. But until then, obviously, I'm just waiting for it. King of Wrath by Anna Huang. Her first book in the Kings of Sin series. I liked it. 4 stars. Don't love it as much as the Twisted series, but I'm gonna keep going, obviously, because I love Anna Huang, but Twisted series still remains supreme in my book. Okay, then I also have Vibe and Sick Fox on here again, but we've already talked about those. Blindside by Candy Steiner. I will read this eventually, but I haven't yet. Where the Mountains Meet the Sea by A.R. Breck. I did read this and I loved it. 5 stars. I thought I had my top 10 of 2023 list pretty solidified, and this like messed that all up because it was like, you're putting me on here. Loved it. Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I think I ran down to 3. I just had such trouble connecting to the story. I really liked Julian. I liked Daisy enough, but Christian was just so boring to me, and yeah, I'm mostly looking forward to the 3rd book. Obsessed by Serena Ackroyd. This is a student teacher book. Still want to read this. The Mighty Storm by Samantha Towell. Still want to read this. A toxic rock star groveling romance. Still want to read that. And then I did read Say Yes by Lucia Franco. This is a novella following up Hush Hush. I read it. I enjoyed it. 4 stars. Completely unnecessary, but still fun. And Kick by C.D. Rice. I read this. I did not like it. 2 stars. Will not continue on with the series. And then obviously I'm not going to go through December because like I said, it's too early in December. But lastly, I had my 22 books to read in 2022 list, and spoiler alert, I didn't do good. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. I haven't read this yet, but I will read it before the movie releases. Just haven't gotten around to it. Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. I did read this. I gave this 3.5 stars. I haven't moved on yet in the rest of the series. I do plan to eventually. It's just not like high priority for me anymore. Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth. I still want to read it. I'm really sad that I haven't gotten around to it yet. I love Veronica Roth and I do own it, so I will read it eventually, just haven't gotten around to it. Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. Obviously we know that I read it and loved it. Crow by A. Zavarelli. Once again, we know that I didn't get to. Too Late by Colleen Hoover. We know that I read and enjoyed it. Heartless by Jade West. So this one is the first book in the trilogy that she did for the Midnight Dynasty series that I've really enjoyed. I didn't read this, but I do still plan on it and I do own it. Wicked Idol by Becker Gray, another one that is a part of the Midnight Dynasty series, and I would like to keep going in that series. Dangerous Temptation by Gianna Darling, her contribution to the Midnight Dynasty series. I do own this. I will probably get around to this next year. Am I really gonna say that? But I do still really want to read it. From Look Off With Love. We already know that I didn't read this, but I will. Vibe, obviously we know. Silver Swan by Amo Jones. Still haven't gotten around to this, but I do want to read it. I just really want to get into more of her backlist. I've only read 2 books of hers so far, and I do really want to get into them. And Peace Lies Havoc by Amo Jones. We already know I read this and didn't really vibe. Flock by Kate Stewart. We already know that I read this and did vibe. Radiance by Grace Draven. So this is a fantasy romance. I do still want to read it at some point, but I realize that it's not in KU. So I feel like if something's not in KU, it normally gets pushed to the back burner a lot of the times. So I do still want to read it, but when will that happen? To be determined. Forgot Me Not by QB Tyler. We already know. Read it and loved it. Carnage by Sarah Bailey. We already know. Read it and was frustrated, but it was hot. Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. Once again, I will be reading this month. Gothic Anna by Runix. We know that I didn't get to this. I will eventually. Real by Kennedy Ryan. Currently reading it right now. Will have it finished by the end of the year. So far, loving it. Guild by Raven Kennedy. Still want to read the series. It's a fantasy series. Still want to get around to it. When will I do that? I don't know what to tell y'all. And then Tell Me When It's Over by B. Celeste. I still want to read it. I don't know if like this is as high priority for me anymore. I'm just like not jumping to read it. And whenever I felt like reading a rock star romance, I always pass this one over and choose something else. So I don't know, but I do want to read more of her backlist because I've read like probably about half of her backlist. So I want to like finish it, but I'm just not like jumping for it right now. So anyways, that is my TBR retrospective. I actually don't think I did that bad. I mean, granted, I could look back in editing and be like, you really didn't read a lot, but I feel like going through that, I actually read quite a bit. So I'm definitely gonna keep doing TBR videos in the new year. I think you guys tend to like them and I like doing them and I like just tracking my priority reads. Then that way next year when I'm like, what do I still wanna read? I can look back at that and have a bunch to look at. So I will have TBR videos coming, and then I'm also going to be doing another 23 books I want to read in 2023 video, and that will come in January. So anyways, that is it for today, and I will see you when I see ya.